Welcome to Investors Insights. Today I want to talk about the level of government debt and why it's important to keep that in the context of the cost of carry for the government debt. So when we're talking during a political season, you're going to hear a lot of people discuss that the debt is out of control. And people can agree or disagree on whether or not that's accurate. If you look at this chart, the government debt, U.S. federal government debt, is at a record high. But if you look at the chart closer, you'll see that it is almost always at a record high. So at what point does it become an extreme or too much debt that we can handle? I think a more important chart to look at is not necessarily the total debt, but the cost of that debt. So if you look at this next chart, you'll see the government servicing of that debt, or the cost to cover that debt, is actually not at an all-time high. It's relative to the 80s and 90s, it's actually lower. If you'll remember back to the late 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of talk about cutting government spending, about how we needed to focus on the deficit, and politicians actually acted on that. We had a balanced budget in the late 90s. One of the reasons is that the interest on that debt was high enough to where the percentage of government spending had to go to interest. Now, if you're a politician and you want to get reelected and you have to spend money on interest instead of spending money on pet projects or cutting taxes to get your constituents to vote, you've got a problem. So as long as the cost of carrying that debt is low, politicians will continue to be able to promise more and more spending because they don't have to spend a higher and higher percentage of that annual revenue on servicing that debt. If we start to see interest rates go up, the cost of servicing debt go up, I bet you'll start hearing politicians on both sides of the aisle talk about how we need to solve this debt problem, we need to cut spending. But as long as the carrying cost, where interest rates are low, where U.S. government debt is cheap, you'll probably hear through this political system about not cutting spending, but where it's being spent. That we need to cut taxes, which increase spending, or we need to increase spending on health care. Until we see higher rates, I don't see politicians seeing any reason to pretend that they're going to cut spending. Just something to keep in mind as you're watching this will be a very long presidential cycle. I hope this is helpful, putting some things into context. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email or call. We love talking about this. We love speaking with our clients, friends, families, anybody. So I hope you have a great week, and I hope this was informative.